Hello, everybody. Welcome in to the NBA front office show. My oh my, the NBA offseason. My offseason officially started like less than 12 hours ago, and all hell is broken loose already. I'm Trevor Lane. You can find me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane, joined by Keith Smith at Keith Smith NBA. Keith, this is madness. The NBA world, it just never stops. We have so much to get into today, and there's still teams playing in the playoffs, but holy moly, the NBA offseason is undefeated.
Yeah, you chose to wear black today, I guess, for the funeral. I am in gray. I split the difference because I'm probably headed towards a funeral tonight. So we're just instead of our dreams of Celtics Lakers to break the tie, that will carry over to next year. I guess it's you guys are done, and I don't feel like this is a group that's making history and making the first 0-3 comeback for the Celtics tonight. But hey, history has to start somewhere. So I guess, but I'm not going to be silly about that. So, yeah, let's get into stuff. We've got a lot of stuff. We only have a short amount of time because we are. It's nice to both be in demand individuals. I wish it was
That's
on
true.
happier circumstances, but unfortunately, we take what we can get. But yeah, let's get into it because there's quite a bit going on.
There's a lot. People always ask like, "Oh, well, then you get to relax during the summer and stuff during the offseason." Oh, no, no, no. We get busier during the
Sometime
offseason.
in late July, early August.
We got this like shortly after I finished my post game show because, of course, LeBron hints at retirement after the Lakers lost to Coach Mike Malone's team, and uh, I don't necessarily buy that he's actually retiring. He just said he would have to think about his future and that kind of thing. And Chris Haynes put out that he's not 100% that he's going to be with the team to start the season. He's going to have to get another MRI on his foot. We'll see if he needs offseason surgery. All these kinds of things matter. I tend to think that this is the pain of losing. He played essentially the entire game aside for 4 seconds. And so that's all of this kind of causing him to say things like that. Not to mention Carmelo Anthony, who we'll talk about in a little bit, retired. So maybe that's kind of on his mind already. But nonetheless, LeBron kind of floats it out there that maybe he might, hang him up. Um, this could also be a leverage ploy. Keith, there's so many different ways we can speculate about this. But bottom line, I don't buy that he's actually retiring. But interesting that this is something that he would bring up and that he's at least considering.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the first time he's kind of in recent years. He has talked more about like, hey, the end is a heck of a lot closer than it is. We're closer to that than the beginning, right? Like he has been open about that, which of course, right? We all know that. But this is the first time that I can remember him openly ever saying like, yeah, I don't know, we'll see. But I'm with you. My guess is he is in physical and emotional pain. Just what, an hour or so, 2 hours, whatever it was
Mm-hmm.
after the season ended, that he is thinking, it's probably, my guess is he's looking and being like, I don't know that I'm going to be ready to do this again in 5 months.
Yeah.
But that's 5 months from now, right? So my thoughts are, I've already started to see some people like, man, we need to talk about LeBron's career. No, we don't. Like, let's wait till we're far more official than some kind of off the cuff, raw emotional comments in a post game scenario. Like there will be plenty of time to do the LeBron James career retrospectives on it, and he deserves every bit of that whenever that time comes. I just don't think that's today. But it is important, I think, to understand, what happens if he does
Mm-hmm.
retire. And here's the big thing: Lakers don't get any cap relief. People are already like, well, if he retires, that money comes right off the books, right? Not how it works, because otherwise we'd have guys retiring and unretiring every off season when they get to a
Sure.
certain age. So what happens is that money stays on the books because and I've heard some people say, well, maybe it could be a career ending medical thing. Well, if it is, there's even a year-long waiting period for that to get wiped away. So even if that happens, it wouldn't matter for next year anyway. So that 46.9 million projected, that's likely where to land out right around that amount. That is on the books next year, almost no matter what, unless LeBron retired and accepted a buyout for zero or near zero from the
Right.
Lakers. It was waived. He went through all that. And at that point, if I was the Houston Rockets, I would sit there and be like, guess what? We just claimed you on waivers. Like now you're a Rocket. Like
Right,
if
right,
you
right.
want to come back. That's
In case he wants
gets
to come back.
exactly.
That
It
was
gets
the
dumb and
conversation we
silly.
saw on Twitter a little bit was, well, he could take a year off and then return when Bronny
Sure.
comes into the NBA.
It's
I'm like, well, yeah,
possible.
that's
Yeah.
true, but he would still be under contract with the Lakers unless they negotiated that buyout, in which case somebody would claim him,
Yeah.
and then he's still stuck with that team. Now he would have a player
Exactly.
option, I guess. But what would happen
Yeah.
there? Like if
So
he
what
just said,
happened?
"I'm not going
So
to play for a year."
yeah. So let's get into it. Let's say he, 2 weeks from now, he takes his time and he's like, yeah, I'm done. I'm not going to play this year. I'm retiring with the intention of retiring. My guess is, and this is strictly a guess, he would decline the player option and
Mhm.
not put the Lakers in the bind of having $50 million on their books in 25, 26 for no reason. But or 20, yeah, 20, sorry, 24, 25. Sorry, I'm off like a year,
No,
with my
I
because
got
it's
you.
that's the this year, next year kind of mess of this time of the season. So that second year, my guess is he would decline that and not force the Lakers. Now, he is well within his rights. It is a player option. He could say, I'm picking it up and it's going to sit there. Now, he doesn't actually get that money if he retires because then he's retiring. He's not going to get paid
Right.
that money. But if he basically says, like, yeah, I'm retiring, it still sits as it essentially sits as dead money on the Lakers cap. But very famous example of this was Rasheed Wallace in his last year with the Celtics, retired and left. It was something small amount. It was like 3 or 5 million or 6 million, something like that. I could go back and look it up, but that sat on the Celtics cap for a year is just dead money. So it doesn't go away because that would open all sorts of loopholes and all this.
Shenanigans. Yeah.
Exactly. So now what happens is right that sits. Then let's say it's January and he's like, I want to come back. He could say, I want to come back and come back with the Lakers and right into it. And off we go,
Mhm.
plays with the Lakers. If he said, I want to come back, and the Lakers were like, nah, no, then it takes unanimous approval from the NBA to say you can come back. Unanimous. So it has to be all 30 teams agreeing you can come back and then you could go and play for somebody else. Jason Williams did this, the guard, Jason Williams, the Sacramento Kings elbow
Mhm.
pass, Jason
Uh,
Williams.
elbow pass. Yep.
Yep. He signed with the LA Clippers. I think this was in 2008. It was so quite a while ago, but he basically decided in training camp, yeah, I don't actually want to play. Then he said, I want to come back out of retirement. I want to play for the Magic back in Florida where he went to college and all that. And the NBA as a whole said, all right, we got to vote. And it got voted down. They said, no, like you can't just sign. So what he had to do was wait 1 year from the time he retired. Then he was able to sign with the Magic and go. So very unlikely LeBron would even do that. I mean,
Right.
I've heard some suggest maybe he retires, sits out for the year, sees where Bronny goes. Then that's how
Mhm.
we end up in a spot where he plays with Bronny. My guess is what happens, and this is obviously strictly a guess because nobody knows but him at this point, is he's probably just back and maybe they work out something where it's like, hey, you know what? Start the year in the beginning of November. Take that first, two,
Yeah.
3 weeks of the season off. Like, just we'll see you when you're ready. We also don't know. I mean, there's already rumors. I think you probably would know better than I that he's gonna have another MRI
Yeah.
on his foot. I mean, he could have to be undergoing surgery here in a couple of days to be in a spot where it's like that may not even be a thing, right? It may be LeBron can't even play till the beginning of December or whatever. So I don't know what he's facing and not facing with injury wise. He's very clearly was not right from any point in the playoffs, right? He was clearly something
Yes.
was wrong with him. He just the biggest place I could see it was he just didn't have that explosion to the basket play after play after play like you generally see. So that's kind of where it works from cap wise. There would not be if he retired tomorrow. There's no cap relief coming for the Lakers at 46.9 million. Still sits on their books, and it just sits there as dead money if he's not there. It's obviously the same. Yes, the Lakers could trade him if they wanted. There's no trade restrictions or anything like that. They could move him in any kind of deal. But when they want, he has there's no trade clause here, nothing of the sort. So, not saying that any of those things would happen, but just, putting all that out there. So that's kind of where it's at. There's not a lot of really great options here, even if he does retire.
Now, if he were to retire and decline that player option for next summer, then as of next summer, if Bronny wound up with the Orlando Magic or something, he could just go sign with the Orlando Magic.
Yep, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, because he'd be a free agent. Yep,
Right.
yep. He'd have to wait the year from whenever he announced his retirement, and then because obviously the Lakers aren't going to let him back in until ahead of time. But because of the timing on this, we'd be basically at the start of the offseason anyway. So, yep, yeah, you could absolutely do that. There, and there's part of me, we talked about this on the Spot Track podcast. I'm talking about this, and one of the things I said there is part of me wonders, does he do something where it seems like he's going to be at some level involved with the potential Las Vegas expansion team.
Mm-hmm.
That's clearly not going to happen while he's under contract with the Lakers or another team.
Right.
Because I don't even know how many rules that would break in the CBA. Just let's say all of them. But my guess is
break the CBA.
Right. My guess is we would be in a point where maybe he pulls like an MJ, right, and sits out a couple years and then says, "All right, we're coming back," and I'm going to play a year for them. I don't know. My guess is I think he probably doesn't even do that. I think it's probably plays with the Lakers. He'll evaluate where Bronny's going to be going into the next year and then figures it out from there.
Because we all know how fondly we look back on the Michael Jordan Wizards days.
Yeah, those are
that worked out great.
That one All-Star game was kind of cool, but
yeah, sure.
The rest of it was, especially considering, man, like he had the happy ending, right? You made the game-winning shot to win a title, and now, I
roll credits, and then he threw in a post-credit scene that nobody wanted.
Right, that's that Patrick Ewing with the Sonics or the Magic, Hakeem Olajuwon in Toronto. None of those things actually happened. No. Right, those are all none of that actually happened. That was all made up. We all collectively dreamed it, just like Sinbad made a movie where he was a genie.
That's it. It was the Mandela effect. That's what that
Mandela
was.
Effect, yeah. I think so. That's the world I prefer to live in, no matter what basketball reference tells me.
It was a glitch in the Matrix. It was the Berenstein Bears and Berenstain Bears and all that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely, right? Man.
Craziness. All right, let's talk a little bit more about this. The Lakers, according to Jovan Buha of The Athletic, I talked about this a little bit over on the Lakers Nation YouTube channel. The Lakers are rumored to be targeting a third star. It just seems to be in their DNA. Despite all the evidence that depth is maybe the preferred way to go or the way they should go, it seems like they can't help themselves but want another star on the roster. Maybe in this case, if LeBron is saying, "Hey, I'm not going to play a full season anymore," maybe it makes some sense. But getting that third star is very problematic. And Keith, I'm going to say the name Kyrie Irving 50 billion times this summer. But what I'm trying to drive home to Lakers fans is that it is it's not impossible, but extremely difficult to bring in Kyrie specifically. And landing a third star is extremely difficult if you have any kind of attachment to Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, which Reeves a little bit easier, of course, but the word is that the Lakers are going to match any offer for Rui and Austin. I've said it before. That's what they should, the word they should be putting out there right now, whether or not that is actually true. But nonetheless, getting a third star is much, much easier said than done at this point for the Lakers.
Yeah. So this is just, one of my favorite things to say is it's just math, right? Like that's all it is. It's just math. So the Lakers, the minimum they can get down to on their books this summer would be 1.7 for Max Christie, 40.6 for Anthony Davis, 46.9 projected for LeBron, and then $300K that they would owe Jared Vanderbilt. Yes, they could trade him for nothing, but I'm just saying if they were just to do everything they can do to wipe the books clean.
And that means goodbye draft pick too.
Correct. Yep. No draft pick. And this is even, I'm taking Austin Reeves out of the mix in this case. And I don't think that's going to happen. That's still $89.5 million. Then the thing that people forget.
And just to clarify, you're leaving Max Christie in because he's making less
Yep.
than what the open roster spot charge would be.
Correct. And he's fully guaranteed contract. So,
Yes.
so I'm down to just what the guaranteed money on the books would be, $89.5 million. So now let's be a little bit more realistic, right? Let's say they clear everything, but they also keep Austin Reeves because his cap hold is relatively tiny at about 2.2
2
million.
million. Yeah.
So now you're down to roughly 34.6 million in cap space. Nowhere near enough for a max deal for Kyrie Irving. Fine, maybe you can get to a spot where Kyrie says, "I only need 30 million." If there's going to be anybody who's going to do it, it's going to be a guy like Kyrie Irving. But the reality is that still needs to be a sign and trade. So now what's happened is you bring Kyrie in. If you go this route through, or I guess you could sign him outright with 30
You
million
could
in
sign
cap
him outright,
space,
but he's got to take a big pay cut.
but he's going to take a major pay cut. So then the option is you bring him in through a sign and trade. Then you run into the hard cap. We all know what that looks like. That turns into a roster of LeBron, AD, Kyrie, Austin Reeves, and a whole bunch of dudes, right, on minimums, because that's just where you'd be at. So now I think, as I have since the trade deadline, and we talked about this, the more realistic path is the Lakers stay well over the cap. They keep basically everybody on their books, and they are, operating as an over the cap team. Then they can keep their cap holds, restricted rights for both Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura. They kind of can move forward. They keep Jared Vanderbilt on the books. They could even, pick up Malik Beasley's team option just for depth purposes and do whatever they need to do. I think that is the way it goes. Same thing then, obviously, D'Angelo Russell. You retain his cap hold and his bird rights. You can still work through sign and trade possibilities and all those kind of things. But that leads into then the other option that they've talked about is Trae Young, right? That was in that same report from the Athletic of, what about Trae Young? Could that be? And that's where that becomes I don't want to suggest that it's easy, but an easier path, just rules wise, to get to, because he's already under contract. It wouldn't trigger any kind of hard cap or anything like that. So that's where you're talking D'Angelo Russell, probably part of a sign and trade. You're throwing in somebody else. And then what you're doing is, all right, here's the draft picks. We can trade you. We're going to give you those, and we get Trae Young, and off we go. And that's basically how this resets. Maybe
that's not a commentary on whether or not that's enough value for the Hawks. That's simply logistically how you can make something like that work.
Exactly. So that's where we're kind of here, and this feels like we're having a discussion we had in October of, are 3 stars enough? And that was when Russ was kind of not really a star anymore, right? So,
Keith, on the Lakers Nation video covering this, I introduced myself as Phil Connors.
Yeah,
and we'll see how many people get the reference, but
right?
yes, I feel like I'm trapped in a time loop.
Appreciate it. That's a good one. Yeah. We'll hear if you hear the same song every morning when you wake up. That's yeah. So yeah, man, I just like I feel like we're in a spot where these reports are going to keep coming out because it's the Lakers, right? Like they're just, when the Lakers have the ability to maybe play with cap space, they're going to get it. They're going to be attached to everybody who becomes available, right? Like, I'm a little surprised there's not a James Harden rumor randomly floating out there yet. Probably just because everybody's so locked in.
You just jinxed us, Keith.
But yeah, there you go. There's your next video. But it gets really hard to do this, and it gets really hard to build a roster. When did they get good? When they built an actual functioning roster with depth. Like, that's when they finally got good and became like a real team. And if they hadn't done that, and then you lose LeBron for 35, 40 games, AD 35, 40 games, Kyrie 35, 40 games that he's probably going to miss too. Like, what are you doing? You're not going to be good. You're going to be, and you can't keep relying on, well, we just got to get into the play-in tournament. Like, that's not a sustainable path either. So that just becomes, I think it's going to be the smarter path is going to be keep Hachimura, keep Reeves. It's LeBron and AD. Let's try to move this thing forward with reasonable contracts for the other two guys and go. I think they're going to be forced to match something big on Austin Reeves. Like, I think somebody's going to go 20 plus million a year, average annual value, and that's going to be how that goes. But then it's up to the Lakers. Do we match it and kind of go from there and figure that out? I don't know about Hachimura. I think we're going a little too far with some good playoff performances now. With some of the things I've seen people throwing out, could he get 25 million a year? Like that seems bananas to me. Like
Yeah, that's a
the
little
guy we
crazy.
were talking about getting non-tendered, 4 months ago before he got
Right.
traded. Like I don't. It's not like he came into the Lakers and immediately became a 25 point per game guy. Good player. I think the Lakers should do what they can to retain him, but I don't know if they're going to be forced into a very difficult situation like I do think they will be with Reeves.
Yeah, and again, the Lakers, it should be out there that they'll pay whatever it takes to keep him, because that can impact what kind of offers he gets and what you actually have to deal with. Because teams will say, "Well, what's the point if they're just going to match any offer? Why would we even offer this guy anything?" But that doesn't mean that's actually correct or accurate. So we'll see ultimately what happens with those guys. Yeah, it wasn't that long. I mean, a few months ago, I was having conversations with various people from within the league that were saying like, did they even give Rui like 10 million? Like he was not good for a stretch.
Yeah.
And then he, to his credit, he played great in the postseason, picked it up towards the end of the regular season. And he certainly earned himself a lot of money. But yeah, it could get out of hand with that kind of stuff too, where suddenly he's making 25 million. That could get a little crazy.
Yeah, that gets nuts. Now Reeves 25 million. I could see, because that's the deal with the restricted free agency too, right? You have to make it big enough to make the other team blink.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and because of the arenas part of it for the Lakers, that's where it gets extremely complicated. We've already talked that. We've broken that down. Everybody knows. You can find that article on Spot Track. Literally nothing has changed with those numbers there. Go check it out if you're really that interested in where it goes. But I think the idea of the Lakers getting him just re-signed for what that's probably gone. I gotta imagine. Like it's
the 4 years, 53-ish million or whatever. Like that's probably not going to happen for Austin Reeves.
And to some extent for Austin Reeves, it's just smart business now to sign an offer sheet, even knowing, hey, the Lakers are going to match. And that's where it gets confusing, right? Because that's what happened with DeAndre Ayton, right? It was like, go sign a max offer sheet and we'll match it. Well, does a team say, well, I'm not going to mess around? But I do think there's going to be teams that are going to say, or we're going to find out, well, what is your chicken, right? We're playing a game of chicken. That's what restricted free agency is.
Mm-hmm.
At what point will you swerve and say it's too much? We can't take it. And I think we may get down to that because I think, but third best player on the team, in my opinion, throughout the course of the playoff run, maybe the entire regular season. That's probably a little more questionable, but pretty close.
Oh, if they blinked on Austin Reeves after what they did with Alex Caruso, there would be torches and pitchforks outside of crypto.com arena. I mean, it would be bad. I don't think the Lakers can actually let him go.
There's a number where it gets, anything much north of
Sure.
like 20, 22 average annual value. That would start to get a little silly at that point. But yeah, I'm really curious to see which one of these cap space teams says, let's find out. Let's push it and find out. It's almost one where you wish it was like more auction style. Oh, you'll match at 22. Okay, we'll go to 24. Oh, you'll match there. All right, 25.
What, like publicly in a big forum?
Yeah, wouldn't that be awesome? Right, like kind of fun. Like, and then Austin Reeves.
Adam Silver doesn't have the personality to be the auctioneer, though. It would have to be somebody else.
You'd have to get somebody who talks really fast in there. But yeah, all right.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the Houston Rockets, their free agent targets here. Keith, I know you've got a list there of players they're going to be looking at.
Yeah, these came
veterans.
veteran players came from Kelly Iko of The Athletic. The aforementioned Austin Reeves makes sense, right? He's probably going to be connected to basically every team with cap space to some level, just because again, he's just a very easy plug and play guy. Either becomes your top reserve guard or starting guard or whatever you need him to be. For you, Cam Johnson would make a lot of sense, right? Another restricted free agent. And then two veteran free agents, Brooke Lopez and Dylan Brooks. So both make sense for different reasons, right? Dylan Brooks would be kind of that veteran wing stopper. And let this be what finally puts it to rest that Dylan Brooks is not going to have offers and no one's going to want to sign him. That whole nonsense that was so silly at the end of that playoff series. Like, Dylan Brooks is a good player and someone's going to sign him for sure. Brooke Lopez is interesting to me because, that only makes sense if you're like getting James Harden, then, hey, Brooke, you want the 12, 13 million left in cap space we have? What do you think, buddy? Like, you want to come in? We're going to trade, a couple other guys. And maybe what you do is you let, Alperen Şengün kind of learn behind him for a year or two, or, do you move Şengün in a trade to kind of fill out other holes in your roster? So I think really fun and interesting to see which direction the Rockets go. We've heard a lot of different names, but these were more specific names than just kind of the top guys, the Hardens and Middletons and top free agents. So I thought it was worth getting into these. Good reporting by Kelly Eco.
Yeah, some interesting options there potentially for Houston. And again, if James Harden is on board, does that push them towards more veterans and things? But I mean, look, like Brook Lopez, that's an interesting one that I wasn't anticipating. All right,
I certainly wasn't. Yeah.
Let's get to the Bucks coaching job. 3 finalists: Nick Nurse, Kenny Atkinson, Adrian Griffin, finalists for the Bucks coaching job. Nick Nurse, I mean, the biggest name here. So I mean, he's won an NBA championship. Is that the way you ultimately see the Bucks going? Like, they need a guy that they think can bring them to the promised land. To me, he stands out as what should be maybe the top pick. Now, obviously, how much money you have to pay him, that can certainly matter. How many years, all that kind of stuff, and also what they're saying in these interviews. But to me, just looking at this list, it seems like Nick Nurse should be the favorite here.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think this is a team that is built to win right now. And that's, I'm going to assume, I know we just talked about Brook Lopez and the Rockets' interest, but I'm going to assume he's back with Milwaukee. I think, they'll fill out their roster around Giannis and Holiday, and we'll see what happens with Chris Middleton. I personally think there's far more chance Middleton is gone from the Bucks than Brook Lopez. I think just the way the contracts may line up with that one. But yeah, Nick Nurse makes a ton of sense there. I mean, Kenny Atkinson, I think he's a great coach and I think deserves an opportunity. Adrian Griffin's going to get a shot eventually. He's kind of on the Darvin Ham kind of path now, where it is like, all right, keep interviewing. Eventually you'll break through. But yeah, just with where the Bucks are as a franchise, I think it may go to Nick Nurse.
Yeah, agreed. I think that makes sense. Last thing we've got for today, or we both have to run off to other obligations here, but Carmelo Anthony retired. It's funny. I was actually just looking. I was over on Spot Track looking at the Lakers cap holds for next year, and there's Carmelo Anthony sitting there. And then like an hour later, it's Carmelo Anthony retires. And went, oh, okay, there you go. It is funny how long guys their cap holds can sit on teams' books, even if they aren't, playing, if you're an over the cap team. But Carmelo Anthony officially retires. What a career it was for Melo. Did incredible stuff. He will always be looked at as that guy that, he never won a chip and all that. But I mean, what an incredible career. And then the things he did in the Olympics, the things he did with the international play, amazing.
Won the
amazing
AA
career.
title as a freshman at Syracuse.
Yep.
Yeah, 100% first ballot Hall of Fame, and not even a question mark. 9th, I believe, all time in scoring today as he retires. So yeah, just incredible career for Carmelo Anthony. Hope he enjoys himself in retirement. And the nice thing is too, he went out still a productive player, right? Like he was a good player on off the bench for a handful of teams there at the end of his career. When it looked like there was a moment where it's like, all right, this guy's done. Had that rebirth with the Blazers, played well for the Lakers off the bench. Probably could have played somewhere and been a somewhat productive player off the bench for a team. But good for him for saying this is when I want to go out, and goes out still a good player, and it might, like I said, first ballot Hall of Famer without a doubt for me. Just NBA accomplishments combined with Team USA combined with the NCAA title. It's important people remember it's the Basketball Hall of Fame, not the NBA Hall of Fame. But even if it was just the NBA Hall of Fame, he'd still be a Hall of Famer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is, when you look at what Carmelo Anthony did, is just easy pick for the Hall of Fame, and one of the smoothest scorers we've ever seen. Just, I mean, amazing stuff. And the thing is, he is going to be busting guys up in open runs and at the YMCA for another 20 years. Like that jumper is just going to
pull up on the baseline, man. He'll make that thing until he's 70.
Exactly.
As long as he can get it off, that's all it'll matter. It'll still go in. So for sure, yeah. I do wonder, just to kind of close, like, is that part of what got LeBron thinking about it a little bit last night? Was it like, man, we came in together, we were linked together forever, Was that part of his, in his mind of, man, like Melo's gone, D Wade's gone, all my guys are gone. Like, I'm the last one left, but the reality is LeBron's got plenty left in him. I mean, what did he say last night? I'm still better than 90 to 95% of the players. Yeah, I don't think you're retiring if you still feel that way. It might be
probably
even
not.
shorting himself a little bit on that if he can, get healthy again. So, yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, that does it for us today. Thank you for joining us, everybody. We've got plenty to talk about this offseason, no question. And of course, we still have basketball being played. We'll see what Keith Celtics can do tonight against the Miami Heat.
Or we have 10 days with no NBA games, which is not great.
No.
Or I guess a week with no NBA games.
That's right. That's right. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you do subscribe to the YouTube channel. And of course, follow us over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is you listen to podcasts. Till next time, see ya and stay safe.